Alright, we need to talk about this, because the more I looked into it, the more ridiculous it got. At first, I thought this was just going to be another one of those Roblox updates that people complain about for a couple of days and then move on from. But after actually reading through the details, I honestly think this might be one of the worst decisions they've made in a while. And the crazy part is that this all revolves around one simple question that developers have been asking for months. What exactly is a highly engaged player? If you've been following Roblox's recent changes, you've probably heard that term before. Roblox kept mentioning it whenever they talked about new requirements for developers, but they never really explained what it meant, and that's been one of the biggest frustrations lately. Roblox introduces these huge changes, everyone starts asking questions, and then nobody gets a clear answer until weeks or even months later. Well, now we finally know, and honestly, I wish we didn't, because apparently, one of the things Roblox uses to determine whether somebody is a highly engaged player is whether they've spent money on the platform within the last 60 days. Not in your game. Not in a game they actually play regularly, just anywhere on Roblox. And when I first read that, I genuinely thought I had misunderstood it. I had to read it twice, because when someone says highly engaged player, what do you think of? Probably somebody who's active, somebody who logs in all the time, somebody who spends hours playing, somebody who keeps coming back because they enjoy the experience, an engaged player. Apparently, Roblox sees things a little differently, because under this system, someone could spend hours every day playing your game and still not help you much if they haven't purchased Robux recently. Meanwhile, someone who spent money somewhere else on the platform could count toward the requirement without ever really interacting with your game. And that's where this whole thing starts falling apart for me, because Roblox already has access to almost every metric imaginable. They know who plays every day, they know how long people stay in games, they know retention rates, they know session lengths, they know which games people come back to over and over again. They have all of that information. So why are we looking at spending habits? Seriously, out of every possible way to measure engagement, how did we end up here? If somebody spends 6 hours a day in a game, that's engagement. If somebody comes back every single day for months, that's engagement. If somebody actively participates in a community, that's engagement. Buying Robux might show that someone is invested in the platform, sure, but calling that one of the main indicators of engagement just feels completely backwards. And unfortunately, this isn't just some random statistic that nobody cares about. This affects developers, especially smaller developers, the people who are already struggling to get noticed. Think about it for a second. Imagine you're a new developer. You've spent months working on a game. You finally get people playing it. Your community starts growing. Players are joining every day. Things are looking promising. Then you find out that one of the requirements Roblox cares about is whether those players have recently spent money on the platform. Can you see why people are frustrated? Because suddenly it feels like player activity isn't enough anymore. Now spending habits become part of the equation too. And that's exactly why so many developers started pushing back against this. A lot of people feel like Roblox is making it harder and harder for smaller projects to succeed. There are already verification requirements. There are already additional barriers that developers have to deal with. And now this gets added on top of everything else. It's just another hurdle, another requirement, another thing developers have to worry about. And honestly, I don't think Roblox realizes how bad this looks from the outside. Because whether they intended it or not, the message people are hearing is pretty simple. Spending money matters more than actually playing. Now, is that technically what Roblox said? No, but that's the conclusion a lot of people are reaching after seeing how this system works. Even members of the developer community started reacting to it almost immediately. One of the biggest criticisms was that this explains why heavily monetized games seem to hit these requirements much faster than everyone else. And when you think about it, that makes sense. The more your audience spends, the easier it becomes to satisfy metrics that are partially tied to spending, which creates another problem. What happens to genuinely good games that aren't aggressively monetized? What happens to games that focus on gameplay instead of pushing purchases every 5 minutes? Because those games could end up getting pushed aside despite having active communities. And that's the part that worries a lot of people. Not every successful game is successful because it makes the most money. Some games are successful because people genuinely enjoy playing them. Those aren't always the same thing. Another person who spoke about this was Crickcraft. And honestly, he brought up something that should be obvious. Roblox has more player data than almost anyone. They know exactly who their active users are. They know who's logging in every day. They know who's playing for hours. So why not use that information? Why not build the system around actual activity? Why not measure engagement through behavior instead of spending? That's the question I keep coming back to. And no matter how many times I look at it, I still don't have a good answer. But here's where things get even more frustrating. Because while developers are dealing with this whole highly engaged player situation, Roblox is also continuing to push changes related to R15 avatars and developer incentives. And if you've been paying attention recently, you've probably already heard about this. Basically, Roblox has been offering additional benefits and incentives to developers whose games meet certain avatar requirements. Specifically, they're encouraging experiences to use R15 avatars and more human-like character systems. Now look, I understand what Roblox is trying to do. I understand the vision they're chasing. They want more realistic avatars. They want more advanced character systems. They want the platform to feel more modern. I get it. But at the same time, part of Roblox's identity has always been creativity and freedom. That's what made Roblox different. You could be a blocky character, you could be a robot, you could be a giant slice of pizza if you wanted to. That was part of the charm. Now it feels like Roblox is slowly trying to push everyone toward a very specific version of what they think the platform should become. And the problem is that when money gets attached to those decisions, it stops feeling optional. Because if developers can earn more by following Roblox's preferred direction, a lot of them are naturally going to feel pressured into doing exactly that. And that's why this conversation keeps getting bigger. It's not just one update anymore. It's not just one policy. It's becoming a pattern. Every few weeks, there's another change that seems to move Roblox further toward corporate goals, and further away from the things that originally made people fall in love with the platform. Maybe that's unfair, maybe Roblox would completely disagree with that statement, but it's definitely how a lot of players and developers are starting to feel. And honestly, I can understand why. Because when you put all of this together, the highly engaged player requirements, the spending metrics, the R15 incentives, the increasing barriers for smaller developers, it starts painting a pretty clear picture. Whether it's intentional or not, Roblox appears to be prioritizing monetization and business goals more than ever before, and that perception is becoming harder and harder to ignore. Now, does that mean Roblox is doomed? No, not even close. Roblox is still massive. Millions of people use the platform every day. Developers are still creating incredible experiences. The community is still huge. But that doesn't mean people can't criticize decisions they think are bad. And right now, this is definitely one of those decisions. Maybe Roblox listens to the feedback, maybe they adjust the system, maybe they provide more clarification, and people end up feeling differently about it. That's possible. But at the moment, a lot of developers are looking at these changes and wondering why things keep getting more complicated instead of simpler. And honestly, that's a fair question. Anyway, that's pretty much everything I wanted to talk about today. Let me know what you think about all of this down in the comments, because honestly, this whole situation is just weird to me. Maybe I'm missing something, maybe I'm not, but I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thanks for hanging out with me for a few minutes, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Take care.